Welcome to our first cohort 2.0 front-end development class. This course material is broken down into 3 sections. First, we will cover some software engineering and front-end engineering basics. Next, we will talk about some foundational understanding of web development. We will also cover some of the tools that will be used during the classes and workshop. Ensure you download these tools and ensure you code along during the practical and interactive coding session. I am Manuela Orioma, a cloud engineer at BoldClick, co-founder at Top Universe, and a software engineer with focus currently in cloud engineering. That being said, let's get started. What is software engineering? Software engineering is defined as the process of understanding user requirements and then designing, developing, and testing a software application that satisfies them. What is front-end engineering? Front-end engineering is an engineering process that applies engineering principles in building apps and digital products or software for users or businesses to be accessed either as a website, an app, or in other digital form. It sits right between the users and the businesses and creates an enablement to transact or perform user-centric or business-related functionalities. Who is a front-end engineer? A front-end developer is a programmer who writes code to create interfaces and visual aspects of websites, software, and apps. They are responsible for creating the features and components that are directly viewable and accessible by the end users. Difference between back-end developer, front-end developer, and full-stack developer. A full-stack developer is someone who works with both the front-end and back-end of a web application. The front-end is responsible for the visual look and feel of the website, while back-end is responsible for the behind-the-scene logic and infrastructure of the site. Let's quickly go through some basic internet concepts. The internet is a global computer network made up of interconnected networks that use defined communication protocols to provide a range of information and communication services. The Hypertext Transfer Protocol is an application layer protocol in the Internet Protocol Suite model for distributed, collaborative, hypermedia information systems. A browser is a computer program with a graphical user interface for displaying and navigating between web pages. The decentralized naming scheme used to identify machines reachable over the Internet or over Internet Protocol networks is called the domain name system. Domain names are linked to various types of information by resource records in the DNS. A web hosting service is a sort of internet hosting service that makes websites for customers visible on the World Wide Web and provides the resources needed for them to construct and maintain a site. Sometimes, businesses that offer web hosting services are referred to as web hosts. Servers serve as hubs for distributing data and software among numerous devices. Many of the same parts that are used in conventional PCs are also used in servers. However, they are typically of a higher quality and are built for continuous usage rather than occasional use. Computer networking is a term for a network of connected computers that may communicate and share resources. These networked devices transmit data through wireless or physical technologies using a set of guidelines known as communications protocol. An operating system is a program that controls all other applications after being originally loaded into the computer. Various operating systems include Microsoft Windows, Apple Mac OS, Google's Android OS, Linux, and Apple iOS. Next, we'll be talking about programming. Making a set of instructions that instruct a computer how to carry out a task is the process of programming. Computer programming languages like JavaScript, Python, and C++ can all be used for programming. A programming language is a formal language made up of a collection of strings that output different types of machine code. We have 3 main categories of computer languages: We have machine language, assembly or low-level language, and the high-level languages. In computer programming, machine code is any low-level programming language consisting of machine language instructions which are used to control a computer's central processing unit. In computer programming, assembly language is any low-level programming language with a very strong correspondence between the instructions in the language and the architectural machine code instructions. In computer science, a high-level programming language is a programming language with strong abstraction from the details of the computer. Examples are Python, JavaScript, C#, C++. What is a source code? Source code is generally understood to mean programming statements that are created by a programmer with a text editor or a visual programming tool and then saved in a file. Let's understand version control system. Developers can monitor and manage code changes over time with the use of version control and source control technologies. These services frequently allows users to compare different code versions, branch or fork off particular locations, and make atomic changes to the code. They can be used to identify the who, what, when, and why of code changes. Examples include Mercurial and Git. What are repo hosting services? In order for other team members to access your code, establish their own branches, and submit or review pull requests, you frequently need a remote location to store your code when working in a group. These services frequently have functionality like continuous integration, code review, and bug tracking. GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, AWS Code Commits, and Azure repos are a few options. Now over to section 3. We'll talk about some basic tools required to kickstart front-end development. In order to kickstart front-end development, you basically need a text editor and a web browser. We have lots of variants out there, but these are recommendations. During the course of this training, we will use Google Chrome and Visual Studio Code during practice hours and workshops. Feel free to use other options based on your preference. We will also use repoit.com for tax reviews and github.com for remote repo hosting. So go ahead and set up your accounts on this website. Ensure you use your primary emails to avoid registering multiple times with different email accounts. Let's talk about JavaScript. JavaScript is a scripting language that runs in the browser, also in your local environment with Node.js. JavaScript is behind every action and interaction you have performed on the browser. With JavaScript, you can create web apps that will run on any machine with a browser. How should you take this course? In order to follow this course, ensure you watch the uploaded sessions and ensure you join the 1-hour Q&A sessions, where your questions or concerns regarding this course or topic of learning would be answered accordingly. You're also required to follow through with the other video materials and PDF presentation shared with you in your Discord room. Finally, make it a habit to consistently practice for at least 2 hours daily. Now, over to some web development fundamentals. What is web development? Web development is the work involved in developing a website for the internet or an intranet. Web development can range from developing a simple single static page of plain text to complex web applications. Let's talk about the stages of web development. It's a major decision to build or modernize your website. It takes effort, money, and time. What can you therefore anticipate from the procedure? Below, we outline our procedure for you when trying to build or update your website. First step is to design the website. Of course, you don't have to do it yourself because this is the enjoyable part. You will probably discuss the use of color, functionality, unique features such as e-commerce, graphics, videos, and the general appearance. Step 2 will be to review your design. Following some time for your team to complete the design process, it's time to demonstrate the product or website owner to the customer, business, or individual. This is typically presented live in person. Step 3 is to develop or build out your design. The website needs to go to the developer now that the design has been approved so that you can view the website online without it being accessible to the general public. The developer begins building it on a production server. You can use that time to finalize the voice, content, and graphics with the copywriter and other team members in the agency. Step 4 would be to test your implementation. It's time to check your new site on a test server. After your website has been coded and all of your content has been decided upon, you'll get a link to the website that you may send to decision makers and employees at your firm. Before the site is finished, there are typically a few adjustments that need to be done. Finally, step 5 will be to launch. Your new website is finally prepared for launch. The launch procedure will be initiated by the developer as soon as you provide the go-ahead. This includes pointing the domain and setting up hosting. Additionally, propagation will take some time. Having patience will pay off. Your website ought to be live and available for use by everyone in a few hours. Let's talk about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This trio makes up the web page you see on your browser when you navigate to pages such as Google, Facebook, Instagram, and other amazing websites that you love to visit. What is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is a markup language used to make web pages and it describes the layout of web pages. What is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It's a style sheet language used for describing the presentation of a document written in a markup language, such as HTML. This adds beauty to your HTML web pages. What is JavaScript? JavaScript or JS is a scripting language that runs in the browser, also in your local environment with Node.js. JavaScript is behind every interaction you have performed on the browser. With JS, you can create web apps that will run on any machine with a browser. In the next session, we'll be diving into the basic fundamentals of HTML. So get your laptops ready as we begin coding.